how to apply acrylic to very short bitten nails. So we're going to be going over that today, but we're also going to be doing a Tortie nail tutorial at the end of the video, so keep watching for that. So grab a brew, take a seat, and let's get started. So prep is always super important. However, when you're working on a biter, it's that bit more important. It serves a few functions. So it'll basically mean that we have better adhesion, but also if we get our prep right, we'll clear more of the nail plate to work on. So what I'm doing is I'm starting off by creating that pocket. I'm just very gently lifting the cuticle with my metal cuticle pusher, and I am going in with I think it's the Honer etch tool, the Honer tool, just to lift that up. So once I've done that, I'll go in with the flame bit, and I go down the left hand side and down the right hand side, and then I'll go in with my cuticle nippers. If you are enjoying this as well, please could you drop me a like and a follow? I'd be super grateful. So when I'm using the flame bit, I will look at the kind of nails that my client has, and this client is more than enough if I use a very fine, but she only has very minimal cuticle, because she does come to me quite regularly. This particular set had been taken off of her teeth, but she's actually getting better at having nails left on by the time she comes to me again. So it's more common for us to do an infill now, which is fantastic. So she doesn't need a great deal of cuticle work, in all honesty, because her cuticles are minimal. So as I say, we go down the left-hand side of the nail with the flame bit, then we go down the right-hand side of the nail with the flame bit. Then, as with every set, we are going in with our Katie Barnes curved cuticle scissors. They are fabulous. They'll make such a difference. If you are scared of using nippers, get a pair of these. Honestly, the difference is vast. They are ergonomic and they fit the nail. And to be honest, I was at a point where I very rarely cut clients or anything like that, and do you know what, it does happen to all of us, so please don't ever beat yourself up if you do accidentally nick somebody. Obviously we don't want to do that, we want to minimize the chances of that, but things happen, accidents happen, be kind to yourself. But basically this totally minimises the possibility of that, because it's shaped to the shape of the cuticle. I always found with cuticle nippers, because they were straight, it's just not as ergonomic, it's not as easy to fit into that cuticle, so you are more likely, and they can be a little bit more frightening to use, I find, whereas these, no problem at all. I've had a few different kind of iterations of the same kind of style, and the Katie Barnes are the ones that I always go back to, because they're super lightweight. It hardly feels like you've got anything in your hand. So for the next step, we go in with our etching tool. Now it's got like a 240 grit pad on it. I'm being gentle because she is, as I say, she is a biter, and she has, taken off nails of her teeth before. So I try and be super careful on any kind of regrowth. And again, the nails do last pretty well. It's not really an issue with her. Also, I like to blend the tips quite a lot, and I don't want to have used my sanding band prior to that section when I'm working on a biting client, because again, they've probably got sensitive skin and overworked cuticles, etc., etc. Once that's all done, we're going to give it a really good cleanse and get all of those bits of dust out of there fully. Next step is we go in with our tips. So these particular tips are the matte advanced clear competition tips from Pro Impressions, and they are fantastic. They are really, really lightweight, particularly in cases like this where I've got a client that's got obviously a very tiny nail bed, but B, a very bitten nail bed. They're really good because you can get them right down. Now, when you're applying the tip and when you're sizing the tip, always size up. You can trim that tip down. So what I'm doing first is I'll normally check that they fit sidewall to sidewall, then apply a tiny amount of glue. We're not applying a lot of glue, and then we're going to just pop that onto the nail. Obviously, every so often you might find that it fights you a little bit, but normally with the Pro Impressions glue plus the tips, I have very little issues with them sticking. They're fantastic. Now, for some reason, I don't think it's recorded, but I did actually just trim them to size using normal cuticle clippers. It's not cuticle clippers, sorry, nail clippers. And then I go in with my curved nail clippers. Now, I use these because I get a nice rounded edge and it does some of the work for me and I don't have to file as much. So what I do is I just make sure, and again, I'm being super careful. This client's really good as well at telling me, you know what I mean, if I'm kind of anywhere near her skin or anything, she'll normally let me know, which is always really helpful. So I always ask my clients, how's it feeling? I try and make sure I'm looking. But I think there was once, she was like, I think that might be about to catch my skin, and when I looked it was. So it's a really good thing to ask your client how they're doing and how things feel. But I am cutting the corners off and we're kind of going, I mean, it's not really an almond because they're so diddy, but it's definitely, I would say, an almond to a round nail. It's probably a thinner round nail, because she wouldn't have the sidewalls. If I was to make it super pointy, I'd be affecting her sidewalls. So yeah, she doesn't like long nails. She just wants some nails on. And she types and she's got a very busy, active life, as do a lot of my clients. So it's about making it kind of functional and stopping her from biting her nails. I'm also using my sanding band just to blend that in to make sure I'm just touching the actual tip here. I'm not really touching the nail bed at all. But the interesting thing was she kept saying as soon as I put the tips on, she was like, oh, this stopped hurting. Because I think your skin underneath, you know, when you do bite, it can be quite sensitive. Now, she didn't have any broken skin or anything like that, but she just instantly felt better with the nails on, and I think this is something that we can probably take into account as nail tech. So if you think that it's going to cause great harm or anything like that to your client, by all means, you are within your rights to refuse service if you don't feel it's appropriate to do it. And if there's contraindications, etc., then absolutely, yeah, you should refuse service. But this client, there's nothing wrong with her nails at all. She's just got teeny tiny nail beds and they were quite bitten. So I'm just trying to make sure on normal nail plate, I don't need to blend this much. But I like to just make sure I'm getting right in there. And also I'll smooth off a little bit and take them a little bit shorter with that sanding band. Also, the hand file that I'm using in a second is just, I think it's my Kirsty Meakin metal half moon with some replaceable covers that I got from, I want to say Amazon, you know, only because I was doing an order and I thought, oh, I'll stick some on and try them, and they've been okay. It's not particularly abrasive either. It's about a 150 or a 180, so for this kind of thing, it's perfect. I wouldn't necessarily use it to prep or touch the natural nail, but it's great for shaping tips, and because it's so firm, it really helps get like a really nice, not straight, but like it really helps with your shaping. So next we're going with our application. So remember, I'm having to pick up a tiny bead as well. A lot of my clients just have salon length nails, so I tend to only use my Liz Guild brush, and then I can work in a couple of beads. So this is the, oh, that was my doggy just having a big sigh, you know, because he's having a really, really difficult life, not paying any rent, living rent free, having all his food paid for. It's tough being Ralph sometimes. Feels very loving. Yes, I know I'm looking at you, gorgeous boy. Anyway, I digress. So yes, I am going in with just teeny tiny beads, and it's a size about a 10 to 12 brush, this one. It's the Liz Guild brush from CJP, and personally for salon length nails, and when I say salon length, I mean kind of this and slightly longer. That's as wild as my clients get. Now, I have very long nails, and one of my friends has very long nails, so usually if I go to hers and do her nails, I'll probably take a bigger brush and I'll do a bigger brush on mine. But people use it's whatever you feel comfortable with. But if I'm using a bigger, I don't see the point in using a bigger brush on a short salon length nail like this, because I don't want to be slopping monomer all over the place. Also, the little dapping dish that I've got in the background is a bit of a revelation now, because I am mobile. I was finding I was throwing away a lot of monomer. Because basically, I pour monomer like I pour booze. I am generous. I am generous to a fault sometimes. So I filled that dapping dish up far too easily and far too quickly, and I have quite a large one because I quite like a good weighted dapping dish. So this is actually a glass jar that I keep my monomer in, and it's got like a little filtered edge. I'm going to go into the video now and see if I can move it down so you can see it properly. But basically it releases a little bit of monomer. I can absorb it into my brush, burp the brush pretty well. If I was doing a really detailed design set and I needed a lot of very clear acrylic, I might still take my dapping dish, because I do think, to be fair, it does saturate the brush really well. I don't find I get a lot of air bubbles. But if I'm doing something like maybe I'm working with a lot of clear or something, I would probably, I always have a dapping dish with me anyway. But for something like this, where I'm just picking up smaller beads and I don't need a great deal of monomer, etc., or powder rather, it's kind of perfect for the amount that I need. So I basically press my brush on it, I fill up that little kind of container at the top, and I soak my brush in it. Then I can just drag it off a little bit and then use my brush into my monomer. But it's fantastic. It's a really handy little thing. And also it reduces the smell. So it means that I just pop the lid back on, I put it back in my thing, and the smell's gone almost instantly, which is really helpful when you work and you're mobile. Also, because I'm working on smaller nails, I am picking up smaller beads. So one of the reasons that I'm working, I could probably do it easily in one bead, but I want to minimise the contact with the skin as much as possible. So I've just decided on this occasion to, I think for the most part, do it in a 2 bead method. And if you'll notice, they're not particularly thick. You don't need a huge apex when you're doing something like this. So once that's all done, we'll go in and we'll do our finish filing. Now I think I've left the majority of the finish filing in, so I will leave you to watch that and then I'll come back in a moment for the tortie. But basically what I'll normally do is the best way to do your routine is do your free edge first, then I go down around the cuticle and down the right hand side of the nail, and then down the left hand side of the nail. Now those pro impression files are lovely for natural nails, but they're not great for acrylic. So I just went back to the metal file and honestly it made light work of my filing. It was fantastic. So yeah, try and do the same routine on every nail because it will really help to ensure that your nails all look pretty even. So, Tortie is absolutely the look that everybody is loving at the minute. So this kind of dark, deep burgundy, almost chocolatey brown. It is a brown rather, but it's got a slight hint of red to it, a little bit of warmth. It's beautiful. It's from Jellifique. I think it's something like chestnut brown. But basically it is a really, really nice coverage. I'm working quite thin because I don't want to add any bulk onto the nails that I'm working on. I'm painting it on and I use a liner brush just to go around. Now I only need to do that on the first layer of the gel. I don't need to do it on the second one. I could probably do it in one coat, but I wanted to make sure it was fully cured, particularly because it's a darker gel. I want to make sure it's fully cured. So on the pinky, I think it's the index finger, and on the thumb I am doing the full brown, and then I go in with the tortoiseshell on the ring finger. So I'll be back in a moment to talk about that. Apart from the fact that I did forget what I was doing just for a moment, and I've left this in because, again, all human. Thankfully my client's lovely and totally understands me and was like, Ali, what are you doing? So I took it off, and like I say, I wanted you to see that because we're all human. To err is human, to forgive is divine, all that kind of lark. So yes. Once I have done all of that, I will come back in a moment and I will talk you through the Tortie process. No, I won't. I want to mention something about the filing. So, I have tried not to go down too much into the side walls when I have been doing her filing because she has very short nails. Sometimes it's quite tempting to make them a little bit more pointy, but you'll see there on the side that I've tried to kind of start angling them in to make them more almond shape from the end of the nail rather than from the side wall, because obviously, while even I know she doesn't have side walls there, we want them to grow up the channels, and to not in kind of not impact the nail health going forward. Now, here's the bit we're all waiting for. Tortieshell nails are really easy. Repeat after me. Tortieshell nails are really easy. You've got this. So, what you want to do is you want to paint on a thin layer of your tortoiseshell gel. Anyone's fine. I particularly like this one from Hona, and all of my clients have loved the actual tone of it as well because it's not too yellowy. It's like a nice kind of warm ambery brown. So we are going in and painting a thin layer of that, and then we're not curing it. So the reason I say it's easy is because it's super random. So don't beat yourself up or be hard on yourself or think, oh, it's got to look a certain way. It doesn't. Tortieshell is a naturally occurring thing, so it can be however you want it to look. So basically, once we've done that, I go in with some splodges of the black first in the uncured gel. Now I used my liner brush to prick that up and pop a few little dots on, and then I went in with my daisy brush, which is from Cassie Payne. This particular liner, and I use it for practically everything, is from is my sturdy boy from Cassie Payne. It's great to work with. Then I go in with my daisy brush and I'm literally just stabbing that into the gel like that, and I am blending that out. So you'll see there, dead random. Don't worry about being precious about it. I'm just letting it kind of float as well and blend a little bit in the actual gel. So I think I allowed it to sit for a few seconds after I'd done all of this before it goes into the lamp. Certainly on the ring finger I've done that because I was like, there's no point in doing them separately, because actually I don't mind if it kind of moves a little bit and blends a little bit. So yeah, just have a bit of a play with that. When you're happy with it, you can always let it sit for a few more seconds and stick it in the lamp. Now, once I've done that, I'm going to go in with my chestnut. I did cure that before I went in with the chestnut. Now, I used my daisy brush and just picked up little splodges, again, technical terms. And I just, oh, excuse me, mister, that was a nice little grumble. And I just smoosh that into the nail. Smoosh being the other technical term I like to use a lot. So yes, we're just going to give that a nice little blend, and again, don't be too precious about it, and just let that kind of like float across the nail. Do whatever you want with it, but I usually try and overlap the brown with the black that I've already got on there in some places, not in all, because you want to see the different variants of colours. But have a play with it, you know, do a few practices beforehand so you're comfortable with it, but it's a lovely technique to do. Then I will go in finally once I've done all of that. For some reason I left the other hand in to show you what I did there as well. But when I've done that, I'll go in with a final layer of the Tortieshell, and that's it. You can as well, if you want to at this point, add a little bit of gold flake or gold leaf, and that's a really nice way to do it as well, because it looks really natural. And it, you know, if you use kind of a slightly more muted gold, it looks really nice underneath the thin layer of the gel, but we decided not to do that on this particular one on this occasion. Also, one of the things that I'm trying to do while I'm taking a bit of time with this is when I'm using my blending brush, I am try to make sure it's flat because I don't want it to be lumpy. I use quite a thick rubber top coat, but I don't want to be able to feel that texture, and I want it to cure. So I want my brown to be quite sheer. I don't want it to be a huge dollop of the brown, if that makes sense, or the black as well, particularly blacks and browns. So if I'm blending it out and shearing it out, A, it'll cure properly, but B, my nail will be more smooth before I go in with my top coat. So there's the final layer of the tortoiseshell. Now, obviously, it's gone a little bit out of focus. Of course it has. But the difference is vast. You can do another layer if you wanted them darker. I wanted them to look quite different, or, you know, a little bit different to the other one. The brown ones rather. So I wanted there to be kind of an evident difference between the two nails, if that makes sense. And then I am just kind of really dragging that over. I'm not using a huge amount of product. I've only got a tiny bit on my brush, and I'm using the flat brush. It's one of my art brushes from CJP, I think. It's a lovely set, actually. They all look like this gorgeous rose gold with a few little diamantes in the handle. Well, crystals in the handle. They're really nice. So yes, so that's her done there. Once I've done all of that, like I say, I'll give that a cure, and then I'll go in with my top coat in a moment. I must have gone in with another layer because I wanted it a bit darker. Anyway, it is, like I said, I'm not leaving a load on there, though. I don't know if you can see that I am dragging that off. I think I was bothered because I wanted to make sure it was a little bit smoother before I put my top coat on it. Now, I think this one is actually a no wipe one as well. So from memory, it actually kind of goes over the top of the nail quite nice. In fact, the client's so happy with them. The next set she's already sent me through also has Tortie on it. So we've definitely got a winner. Then I go in with my Jellifique diamond top coat. Again, it's a really nice, thick but not runny top coat, and it's super shiny, etc, etc. But it's nice because it means that the nail's super smooth on the top. So in a moment, we'll have the final look. Thank you so much for watching. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you all. If you are enjoying this as well, please do make sure you like and subscribe for more, and let me know in the comments what you want to see next.